Imagine for a second that you are Belethor, Breton merchant. You came to Whiterun after the war looking to make a name for yourself. It's cold, supplies are scarce, but you're efficient. You're a jerk, but you make it work. And sooner than later, you're pretty successful. Less than a few decades after the end of the war, and you've got your own pong brokerage right in the middle of one of the most important cities here in Skyrim. You've got enough money to hire this Sigrid guy to chop wood for you. You're ruthless, but people respect you for that. And soon, you're making bank from the trade coming through Whiterun. And you'd assume that life would be done with you by now. Except, you've got this one customer who's really weird. He's some big shot, always heading up to the Cloud District and back. Came into town right after the attack on Helgen. And man, this guy is loaded. Word on the street is they bought a house in town and they paid in cash. And they've taken to coming to your shop most often of all. This customer has a really weird shopping pattern, though. Sometimes you'll find them standing perfectly still right outside your door, seemingly waiting for the exact moment you open up for the day. They'll walk in the front door, and that crazy one who follows them everywhere comes in your back door. You'll welcome them, but when you get down to business, the only thing I ever seem to buy is healing potions and soul gems. That's it. Healing potions, soul gems, and maybe a few lockpicks. This city has a full-blown alchemist who has set up shop literally right next door to you, but no, this guy comes to you for his healing potions. Maybe the occasional mana and stamina potion? One time he bought a mammoth tuft, but you're pretty sure he gave it to that bitch from one of the stalls. And in return, this customer brings you all sorts of crap. He never pays in coins, always in crap. He's brought you all sorts of stuff: weapons, armor, enchanted jewelry, flowers, ruined books, entire museums worth of gemstones. You have no idea where the heck he gets this crap, but he is your biggest supplier. He sells everything at a fraction of its cost, no questions asked, and you are making a killing by flipping it. You don't really question any of this until one day, which ends up changing your life forever. Customer comes in, and after offloading a particularly heavy pile of garbage, bought two things. First thing he bought was a wooden sword, the sort of thing Sigrid carves for the children. The second item was more interesting, though. He bought a fur helm that improves alchemy skill. Bit of a weird choice. So when he leaves, you tell Sigrid to follow him. Find out if the weird guy's an alchemist. Maybe he can steal some more business from Imperial Arcadia. And you don't really hear from Sigrid for another 5 hours. Eventually, as night falls, Sigrid bursts into the shop, and your assistant looks at you as if he'd seen a ghost. Turns out, after buying that hat from you, Stranger walked right next door and bought some alchemical components from Arcadia. A bunch of salts and some weird fish. But rather than brew potions right then and there in Arcadia's shop, Stranger went up to the Cloud District, literally sprinting right up the stairs in the center of town. He burst through the doors the Dragon's Reach like he was going to tell the Jarl that a Stormcloak army was right outside. Instead, totally ignores the Jarl. Sprints right past him, in fact. Takes a right turn, ends up in the chambers of the court wizard, where there's an alchemist table and an enchanting table. As he does so, Stranger puts on the hat that he bought. He also swaps enchanted rings, enchanted necklaces, he even puts on a pair of mismatched leather bracers. Court Wizard was using the alchemist tabor, but the stranger just walks up to the mixing bowl and practically kicks the wizard out of his potion making. You'd think from the speed of his actions that this guy was super injured. He was making himself some sort of impromptu healing potion, but nah. He pulls out the fish, dumps the salt all over it, he mashes it together in a mortar and pestle, pulls out the disgusting raw fix mixture, and downs it. Sigrid lets you know he was careful to not audibly gag. Then the stranger does the weirdest thing. He looks up from his alchemy. He takes off his ring, off his amulet, takes off his hat and his bracers. He looks back and forth for a second, almost as if he was looking for the guards, then promptly puts his enchanted items back on and does the exact same thing. Fish, masked together with salt, mixed with a mortar and pestle, drinks it. Then he does it again. He looks up from his alchemy, takes off all his items, looks around, puts them back on, mixes fish sauce with salt, drinks. And as Sigrid is explaining this to you, you're nodding, but you're not really putting the clues together yet. You'd sold him a hat that helps him make better potions, after all. Maybe this is just kind of how he brewed his potions. Everyone had a different style. You're about to cut Sigrid off and tell him to get to the point when Sigrid explains that slowly he began to notice a shift in the quality of the potions produced. Your assistant explained that after 4 to 5 rounds of this, the potions produced through this seemingly identical method began to improve. That is to say, as Stranger mixed the same fish and salt together, the liquid in the potions that he was making seemed to rise in quality. It went from a disgusting mix of fish guts to a healthy brine in only a few cycles. A few cycles later, and the mixture the stranger was brewing together became pure white, like some of the finest potions ever known to man. Still, he continued. By potion 20 of the cycle, Stranger had perfected his potion making to such a degree that he was transmuting fish oil and drinking literal gold. By potion 25, the Stranger was making potions that were worthy of Emperor Mede II. Still, he improved. By potion 22, the liquid had become fully transparent, yet it glistened more beautifully like the finest jewelry in the land. By potion 23, the power and magic within these potions rivaled that of the entire College of Winterhold. By potion 24, the might of the Imperial Legion. Indeed, by potion 30, Sigrid felt the planet itself seemingly pause for a moment as the stranger combined his fish and salt together to make a potion stronger than the gods themselves. What was he to do with such power? What powerful magic was he about to unleash on Dragon's Reach? As Sigrid felt Nirn quake, the stranger seemed to feel the same force. And this time, rather than brew and immediately drink it, Stranger brewed 5 of these world-cracking potions. He drank but one of them, and for the first time, he combined new reagents together. The stranger combined a hag Ravenclaw and some snowberries. This potion also quaked Nirn as it was created, but as it was mixed, the stranger finally stood up from the alchemy table and moved over to the enchanting table. And it was upon that table that Sigrid saw him place the wooden sword he had purchased. Stranger looked at the Hagraven Snowberries potion, and he took a drink. Immediately, magical energies began to flow through him. Tables burst into flames. Electrical armies marched through Dragon's Leech. Frosted wind howled through the open windows. The court wizard, Farengar, who up until this point had been watching with mild bemusement, was knocked over with the force of Magnus as the stranger became a living conduit of enchanting energy. And with horror in his eyes, Sigrid realized that it was the wooden sword upon the enchanting table that he intended to focus his energy through. Sigrid could only watch in horror as the stranger poured all his elemental energy, all of this wild and uncontrollable magic, deep into this wooden sword, a child's plaything, now enchanted with the destructive magic to rival a kingdom. Or so it would seem. Yet, as the stranger picked up his newly created toy, Sigrid could see no flames dancing across its blade, nor the telltale sign of frost or shock weapons that had come through the shop's doors 1,000 times. No, this was different. Powerful, yes, but its enchantment was unique. Not designed to cause death. No, that would be too easy. This was a weapon meant to cause suffering, endless torment and agony. As the stranger finished his design, Sigrid hid, as the court wizard stood up from prone to inspect the stranger's work. And good singing, too, before it seemed to distract him. That's a decent enchantment, spoke Farengar as he walked over. But keep at it. So the wizard didn't even have a chance to finish his sentence before the stranger attacked him. The stranger swung the enchanted sword directly at the court mage as if it was a real one. Sigrid remarked to you that while it certainly looked as if it did hurt the wizard, being made of wood, the damage was minimal. However, the effect was insidious. As the blade made contact with the court wizard, there was a blast of green light, and the mage tumbled to the ground, frozen in place. A paralyzed rune. A potent rune indeed. Yet, while most paralyzed weapons held their target for a second or two at most, this enchantment persisted. It grasped and grasped at the poor wizard and didn't seem to let go. ever at all. Of course, as soon as Farengar was assaulted in full view of the Jarl no less, guards rushed into the wizard's chamber, swords drawn. Yet their mortal blades were naught but rolls of paper next to the Adraforged wooden sword wielded by this stranger. With a single touch from his blade, the guards fell. Not due to death. Nay, they fell paralyzed, held, effectively forever. The Jarl's Dunmer bodyguard and the rest of the Jarl's family rushed him. They joined the paralyzed troops. Soon the Jarl himself was similarly paralyzed, frozen in place, his frozen body propped up on his own throne as a mockery of his rule. It was at this point that Sigrid began to run. He ran, and he let out a scream and ran like a man possessed, running all the way back to your store in the Plains District. Yet as Sigrid finished his story, you realized to your horror that he was followed. The stranger had followed him, mythical Thord in hand, leaving a trail of paralyzed guards and civilian bodies in his wake. Sigrid screamed as he saw him. The stranger walked right up to you, wooden sword in his hand. You looked up at him, this god in mortal form. You took a deep breath. You have no idea why he was here, but if Sigrid's story was true, it wouldn't do you any good to run or scream. You took a moment to regain your composure as the stranger turned towards you. Everything's for sale, my friend, everything. If I had a sister, I'd sell her in a second. Despite the chaos outside, the stranger wanted to talk business, and you obliged him. He bought some soul gems and lockpicks, like usual. In payment, he sold you a few piles of salt. Perhaps the very same piles of salt he had used to craft his godlike potions a few moments ago. Then his eyes turned toward your potion section, narrowed at one vial in particular, a potion of ultimate healing, sold to you by one of those warriors from Hammerfell that had passed through here a few weeks ago. Oh, you know, the ones with the curved swords. He asked you for a price. You hesitated. What if you quoted him the wrong amount? Panicking, you made up a number. 385 septums. That seemed right. Hopefully. Disaster. The stranger did not have that much money. You felt your bowels about to void themselves. Suddenly, the stranger looked towards his enchanted wooden sword. Was he about to strike you down for your insolence? Your brain raced at the thought of being paralyzed and stuck in place forever. Instead, the stranger placed it down on the countertop, opposite the potion. 385? The stranger asked. This MF was just trying to sell you the potion that he had just crafted. Sell you the sword that he had just crafted. Immediately you nodded an enthusiastic yes. You handed him the potion. In return, you took the wooden sword, the legendary blade. As your transaction concluded, the stranger simply turned around and headed out the door, like he always had. As you left, you waited until he was out of earshot, for both you and Sigrid let out a scream and began to cry. It didn't matter the cost. The two of you wanted out of this crazy province.